statement that they just put into effect, you know, the super statement normally means you have to fly it home. The new one.
The strike is 62 days old now, and power company officials say if it's not over within about 2 weeks, when the stockpile reaches a 50-day level, voluntary conservation methods will have to go into effect. The power company has a contingency plan with 6 phases, ranging from voluntary conservation to rotating blackouts and total cutoffs of electricity except for life-supporting services. This plan was used in 1978 during the nation's longest mining strike, 110 days. Former Governor Wallace called for rotating blackouts at that time, but the strike ended and the blackouts weren't necessary. Power company spokesman Chris Conway says there's no emergency now, but the company is making plans for cutting back if it becomes necessary. Conway says the company depends on coal for more than 70% of its generating power. The other sources are nuclear and hydroelectric, but the amount of electricity generated by hydropower for this year is down by 47% compared to the same period last year. That, combined with the coal strike and dwindling stockpiles, means an even greater hardship for the utility and for the consumers. But Conway says the situation could improve even if the strike continues.
We have what we call an anticipated level of burn for that coal, and that's just an estimate of how much we expect to use each day. And that's where we get our 65-day figure from. Now, if we're able to get any coal, or if we're able to buy some power, or if we have improved hydroelectric generation, then that will avoid the need to burn so much coal. And if those factors combine in a way that we can stretch our coal supply, then it'll last longer than 65 days.
Conway says consumers can expect their utility bills to go up because he says a new contract for the coal miners means more money for raises and for coal. Gina Gregory, WSFA TV News.
I was driving through Montgomery, what do you think I see? Somebody in the state plane in the sky ahead of me. He was putting a sign behind it saying, Jesus is your friend. I know that's true about Jesus, but we've been fobbed again.
It's called Fobbed Again and was recorded in Birmingham by a group called the Employees. Cook says he got a copy of the record yesterday from a member of the State Employees Association, and after playing it 3 times today, he got hundreds of phone calls, with most of the callers asking that it be played more often.
The polling went 86%. People said that they would like for us to continue to play the record, and about 14% that said that they were against us playing it.
His name is kind of funny. Who ever heard of a fob? Some say that down in Auburn, that's how they all spell Bob.
Cook says most of those who don't like the political satire object to the line about Auburn. He says most of the callers who like the record identify themselves as state employees and said they found it to be very funny, with the lyrics expressing some of their sentiments. Cassandra Taylor, WSFA TV News.
When the price of goods goes up, consumer usage of those products goes down. That's Economics 101. It's also the destimulation principle South Central Bell used in the September 1979 rate increase hearing. The PSC granted the telephone company a $38.7 million increase, but South Central Bell netted about $42 million. Rate Analysis Division Director Yvette Smiley-Smith pointed out to commissioners that although the destimulation method is an acceptable economic principle, the theory used in the rate-making process is questionable. She also noted the destimulation method wasn't addressed on record during the September hearing. The Attorney General's office, along with the PSC staff, recommended to commissioners to issue an order requiring the telephone company to file within 10 days a new set of rates without the destimulation method, meaning a reduction in intrastate long-distance and Watts line services to the tune of about $4 million annually. The commissioners agreed. However, consumers won't be getting a refund because the rates weren't collected under bond, and the commissioners can't legally order a refund. Kim Davis, WSFA, TV News.
Alabama Power Company has a coal stockpile of 65 days. Phase 1 of the plan will be implemented when that supply dwindles to 50 days. Phase 1 calls for voluntary conservation, such as raising thermostats, curtailing use of appliances, reducing indoor lighting, eliminating all unnecessary outdoor lighting, and, in some cases, reducing business hours. If the voluntary efforts don't work, the power company and PSC say they'll implement Phase 5, which is to rotate blackouts around the state. Then Phase 6, cut out electrical service to all customers except life-supporting services. Alabama Power depends on coal for 70% of its generating power. Company spokesman Chris Conway says the utility has also been hurt by the lack of rainfall. The amount of electricity generated by hydropower for this year is down 47% compared to the same period last year. That, combined with the coal strike and dwindling stockpiles, is hurting the company and consumer and will eventually be felt in the pocketbook. President of the Alabama Mining Institute, Don Wasson, says the miners are anxious to get back to work, but are determined to sit out the strike until all of their contract demands are met. Gina Gregory, WSFA TV News.
Bonnie Crest's Joe Johnson posted 9s of 39 and 42 for an opening round of 81. That was 8 strokes higher than her personal tournament best of 73, but still good enough for a 3-shot lead.
Yes, I had some good luck, though. Made some good putts.
3 back of Johnson at 84 is the tournament's defending champion, Carolyn Smith of Mobile. Smith, who is a deaf mute, won the event on her home course a year ago, as did Ruth Garrison the year before in Tuscaloosa. Garrison, like the rest of the gals, is a firm believer that senior golf is on the upswing.
I think that the interest is there, definitely. And we're all moving on into older years, and I think that not only do they host the Alabama State Women's Seniors, but you've got numerous other senior tournaments.
The older women are freer now, the children are out of school, and they have time to get away, so I think it's here.
We go all over the state. I take leave from work and go all over the state to play in the seniors and any state event.
The ladies must be 50 years of age or older to compete in the seniors tournament. The oldest in the field of 112 this year is 79-year-old Mary Flowers of Dothan.
I've been playing golf 51 years, and I'm 79 years old, in my 80th year.
And you shot a 99 today?
99 today. Sure did.
And how about that backside again?
The backside was 11 putts. I couldn't miss them.
Mary will try and better that 99 by Friday when the Women's Alabama Golf Association's 9th annual seniors tournament comes to a close. Dave Cody, WSFA TV Sports. With Jerry Royce on the mound, Los Angeles led 2-0 before Atlanta pushed one across in the 6th. Biff Pocoroba singled in Jerry Royster. On the relay, though, Pocoroba was caught in a rundown between 1st and 2nd. Another unusual play set up the Braves' tying run in the 8th. Bruce Benedict got credit for an infield hit off Ron Say's glove. Say was charged with an error on the throw, and Benedict ended up in scoring position at 2nd. Moments later, Claudell Washington brought the Atlanta catcher home, sending reliever Dave Stewart's pitch just fair by the bag at 1st. It was a 2-2 game through 8. Rick Camp held the Dodgers, and Terry Harper won it for Atlanta. The Braves' leadoff hitter in the 9th sent a Steve Howe fastball just over Dusty Baker's outstretched glove at the left field fence. The Braves win it 3-2. Dave Cody, WSFA TV Sports.
proud of this young man.
The deputies came to the meeting angry. They'd heard reports that the governor didn't want to sign the bill because he felt it would supersede home rule. But the deputies say they've gone round robin with their county commissions, who say they haven't got the money to pay the deputies any more than they're getting now. They say their commissioners told them to approach the legislature, and that's what they did.
There is no provisions in the state laws or any decisions by any county commissioners to definitely state that deputy sheriffs will be paid overtime.
The deputies say all they want is to get paid for the time they work or get comp time. They say other law enforcement agencies as well as county employees get overtime or comp time, but deputy sheriffs don't, and they say that's not fair. The deputies say they work an average of 75 hours a week, and in the smaller counties, salaries are below $11,000 a year. They say money isn't the important thing, it's the hours. They want to know how a deputy can work more than 8 hours every day and still be at his best with no compensation or pay for overtime. Gina Gregory, WSFA TV News.
The recommendations made by a task force were taken from a list of 7 original recommendations. The 3 chosen were considered the most important and consist of A, organizing more mutual help groups for the elderly and handicapped and requesting the aid of civic organizations to do so. B, distributing more publicity in the community in regard to the Adult Protection Law of 1976 and adult protection services, which are handled through the Department of Pensions and Security. The publicity would be in the form of public service announcements on radio and TV. And C, educating elderly persons of the availability of information and referral sources. The Health Council is taking all of these recommendations under advisement. With the adoption of the recommendations today, the Council will now implement a letter-writing campaign to various organizations seeking additional support in hopes of soon being able to help provide additional services Council members say are urgently needed to help make life better for many of Montgomery's elderly and handicapped alike. Dan Black, WSFA TV News.
And go through with it, and so the surgeon went to Eleanor Roosevelt. She had sort of a horse face, but anyway, a 20-year-old Olympic athlete's heart. We have basically the idea of going towards a stretched FB 111 and a version of the B1, which could be called the son of the B1, are going towards advanced technology, which will involve the stealth technology into a new aircraft.
Who killed John Bogle? Monday night on Crime Stoppers, TV 12 News will reenact the brutal murder of John Bogle, a respected Montgomery business leader. Hopefully this dramatization will uncover new evidence that will help solve the case. If you have any information concerning this or any other crime, call 834-1000. It could be worth up to $1,000 in reward money, and your identity will be kept secret.
Watch Crime Stoppers Monday night in TV 12's 10 o'clock report. It's your chance to get involved in Montgomery's fight against crime.
Who killed John Bogle? Tonight on Crime Stoppers, TV 12 News will reenact the brutal murder of John Bogle, a respected Montgomery business leader. Hopefully this dramatization will uncover new evidence that will help solve the case. If you have any information concerning this or any other crime, call 834-1000. It could be worth up to $1,000 in reward money, and your identity will be kept secret. Watch Crime Stoppers tonight in TV 12's 10 o'clock report. It's your chance to get involved in Montgomery's fight against crime.
Valenzuela, now 8-2, lasted only 3 2/3 innings and was charged with 7 earned runs, lifting his ERA to 1.88. It marked the first time that Valenzuela failed to pitch at least 7 innings this season and was his second straight defeat, wrapped around a rough no-decision outing at Cincinnati last Saturday. Gaylord Perry was roughed up his last 2 times out but turned in a fine performance tonight, moving closer to the magic 300 victory plateau. Perry, now 4-3, aided his 293rd career victory with a 2-run single in Atlanta's 7-run 4th inning that chased Valenzuela from the mound. Perry allowed 9 hits and all 4 Dodger runs in 8 innings before getting relief help from Rick Camp in the 9th. 9-4 Braves win. Dave Cody, WSFA TV Sports.
Well, lightning can't make a tree look like a pressure cooker, but it certainly can make a tree behave like one, like a pressure cooker with no safety valve. This very hard mock orange tree on the property of Jim and Mimi Rosen was struck by a bolt of lightning a couple of months ago, and as you see, the tree was split right down the middle. Now, lightning can do that sort of thing because when it strikes a tree with a force of up to 30 million volts, pushing an electrical current of up to 100,000 amps, so much heat is instantly generated that whatever moisture the wood is holding turns to steam, and the pressure of that steam can blast a tree trunk wide open. It's a lot of power. Now, volts and amps may not mean much to you, but look at it this way. If the tremendous energy of a single lightning bolt like this one could be harnessed or stored, it would run your television set for 60 or more years. I'm Dan Atkinson with Weather Beat.
Champions.
Wearing the colors of the Country Club of Mobile, Carolyn Smith lowered yesterday's opening round of 84 by 2 shots today to open up a one-stroke lead on medalist Joe Johnson. Smith has a 36-hole total of 168. The demanding Bonnycrest layout is making it a 2-horse race. Johnson, playing on her home course, skied to an 88 after opening with a low round of the tournament, an 81. She is at 169. Sarah Woodham of Valley Hills and Huntsville and Sally Schertzer of the Montgomery Country Club are tied for third, 7 shots off the lead. Schertzer is a former winner of the State Women's Seniors Tournament. Virginia Sutton of Gulf Pines Country Club in Mobile is another shot back at 176. The tournament concludes tomorrow. Dave Cody, WSFA TV Sports.
Federal Judge Robert Varner has ordered the release of 26 inmates from the Montgomery County Jail to eliminate overcrowding. Norman Lumpkin is at the courthouse for this live report. Norman?
Today's order is a repeat of a number of prisoner releases by Montgomery County since 1979, and they were all done because of federal court orders. We are told by an attorney associated with the case that it is the first time that state inmates have been included in the numbers of persons released. The order was received by Montgomery County jail officials at 4:15 p.m. County deputies then began processing records of those on the list, and by 5 p.m., the first group of inmates were freed. They were set free in groups of 4. At least one inmate was discovered to have charges pending against him for alleged crimes committed in another state. 1 hour later, the first 4 left the jail. One man was just beginning to serve a sentence of 8 years, and he was released today.
All I can say is praise the Lord, That's it.
How much time did you have?
8 years.
Huh?
8 years. I just talked to my lawyer daily. He went and talked to the judge, and the DA, and the DA told him that I couldn't get out, that I had to do 3 years, and maybe get out on bond. But then when they told me I was going on,
You talked to your lawyer when?
the day he came up in the day, because he was trying to give me a plea bargain to get my time cut short, and he told me he couldn't get it done, So, hey, this. Hey, all
What
I
are you
can
gonna
say
do now?
I know I'm gonna live right. You can bet that. I'm speechless though,
Okay, what were you supposed to have done?
Props up there, but see, wasn't undertaken though.
All right, see you.
Hey, y'all see.
Today's release brings the Montgomery County Jail's prison population from 166 inmates to 141. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News, reporting live from the Montgomery County Jail.
Thanks, Norman. State.
The controversy stems from a recent newspaper interview with AEA's Executive Secretary Paul Hubbard. According to Randy Quinn of the Alabama Association of School Boards, the teachers' lobbyists threatened to strike or boycott school systems that have laid off teachers.
AEA's Executive Secretary Paul Hubbard promised the citizens of Alabama a long, hot summer and fall, threatening some, and we use his figures, 15 to 20 communities with strikes or boycotts similar to the recent Scottsboro disturbance.
Dr. Hubbard says he never threatened a teacher strike and would try to avoid one if at all possible. He added, quote, "The seeds of conflict are all over the state and in some institutions are ready to germinate."
Alabama's administrative overhead has been low, but in times when cuts have to be made, where do you go to cut? At the classroom level where teaching and learning goes on? Or do you go to, if we can operate on 3.5% when times were flusher in 1979 or 1976, why could we not operate on 3% in 1981 when we're pinched?
According to Dr. Quinn, up to 4,000 teachers and support personnel could lose their jobs this summer because of federal cutbacks, the state's sagging economy, and the absence of a state education budget. Emery Stapleton, WSFA TV News. Billy Joe Camp attacked the Federal Communications Commission's proposed deregulation of telephone service. The FCC proposal would place the regulation of intrastate calls, such as Montgomery to Birmingham calls, under the FCC jurisdiction. Camp says the monthly charge for phone service will skyrocket.
We have been able to provide telephones available to the average working person in the nation in their homes simply because there are other services that subsidize or supplement that home telephone. The home telephone set does not make any telephone company enough money to carry it on a profitable basis. Therefore, the action that the FCC is proposing would dictate throughout the country tremendous increases on the home telephone set.
Camp called upon all Alabamians to protest to their congressmen the FCC action that would take place next March if the proposal isn't withdrawn or the Congress doesn't forbid the proposal by law. Camp also said the South Central Bell will have a difficult time justifying the nearly $147 million rate increase the PSC will begin hearing Tuesday.
If they come down here next week wanting to talk about an emergency rate request, they're going to go back home with the backside of their pants looking like the dogs done been a hold of them.
Emery Stapleton, WSFA TV News.
Authorities say the incident began last night when the suspect in the case allegedly hit Bowen Hill with a brick and then ran from officers who were called to investigate. Officers say Deputy R.L. Ingram went after the man, while the other deputy went to radio for assistance. The sheriff's office says during the chase, the man attacked Deputy Ingram, took his pistol, and ran into a nearby field. By then, 4 deputies were on the scene. They say when the deputies pursued the man, he shot at them repeatedly. The officers say they asked the suspect to surrender and fired a warning shot before returning fire with shotguns and pistols. The dead man is reportedly a former mental patient. Deputies say he was released May 5th from the Montgomery County Jail, where he served time on a harassment conviction. Today, investigators from the Sheriff's Office, the District Attorney's Office, and the state went back to the scene to prepare a report on the incident, a customary procedure whenever there's a shooting involving a lawman. District Attorney Jimmy Evans says he'll file the report with an upcoming grand jury. Jane Matheson, WSFA TV News.
Can't be the county.
Went to work for the Board of Corrections about 3 years ago, and thereafter purchased some land. Thereafter began to build his own swine unit, the Callis swine unit, as opposed to the state of Alabama swine unit at the Board of Correction. And the property that was recovered, all the state of Alabama property that was up there at Callis' swine unit, was actually property taken from the Board of Corrections state of Alabama swine unit in Elmore County. So in effect what Mr. Callis was doing was running his own private business at the expense of the taxpayers of the state of Alabama. Just sit down over there just a minute.
All I can say is praise the Lord, you know. That's it.
How much time did you have?
8 years.
Huh?
8 years. I just talked to my lawyer today, and he went and talked to the judge, you know, and the DA, and the DA told him that I couldn't get out, you know, that I had to do 3 years, you know, and maybe get out on bond. But then when they told me I was going on, hey.
You talked to your lawyer when?
The day. He came up in the day because, you know, he was trying to get me a plea bargain to get my time cut short. And he told me he couldn't get it done, you know, so, you know, hey, this, you know, all I can say.
What are you going to do now?
I know I'm gonna live right. You can bet that. So, I'm speechless though, you know.
Okay, what were you supposed to have done?
Probably still there, you know. But see, wasn't nothing taken though. You know.
All right, see you.
Hey, y'all see.
1 hour after county officials received Judge Varner's order, county inmates began leaving the county jail. Many expressed disbelief and joy that they were being freed early.
I can't believe it's true because I had a lot of time to go. I had 17 months at least before I came up for parole.
What kind of sentence did you have?
I had, over here I have a 1-year sentence to 2 years probation. I had another 5-year sentence over in another county.
I don't believe it.
Why?
I didn't think nothing like this would ever happen.
I had 2 years sentence, and after I had 2 years sentence and everything, I'm glad to be out, and after I'm glad to be out and everything, I'm going to try to better my condition instead of worsen it.
What are your plans?
And just to get out of here, go home, eat a first decent meal, and take a first shower I've had in 2 months.
Okay. One prisoner had a hold order on him from another state for an alleged crime he committed there. We asked if the list had been scrutinized by local law enforcement officials. We were told that it was, and 3 names had been removed from the list after local law enforcement officials objected that they be released early. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News at the Montgomery County Jail.
You know, if you were in one phase of the business and your husband in the other, you're separated. Mementos from South Vietnam and Christ and this country and our root.
This is for women.
Really?
Geared towards us women. So please feel free to ask Brenda and you can
Yes, do.
and just hear what she might have a
Standing for, and that God has a plan for their lives. City all over the place, and people wanted to photograph little Robin. And some days you couldn't tell that she had a problem, and other days it was very obvious. And so it was like walking a tightrope all the time. And
What do
after,
you mean not telling?
So I would encourage everybody in this state to contact their senators, call Aunt Sally around the corner, or to call their daughter on the other side of town. As long as I'm here, the home telephone set does not make any telephone company enough money to carry it on a profitable basis. Therefore, the action that the FCC is proposing would dictate throughout the country tremendous increases on the home telephone set.
At the Texas World Speedway last November, Robin shocked the field by winning her qualifying race. She followed that up with a second-place finish in the race for the pole position, but a mechanical failure knocked her out of the main event. 1981 has gone much the same way, but Robin isn't discouraged.
You have to expect things like that.
What do you think about when you're inside that race car?
Just trying, to be consistent and, to not be real erratic, try to, be smooth, and if I'm behind somebody, figure out, when I'm going to pass someone and stuff like that.
Bob McCall, Robin's father, is the head of her R&D racing team. He says the plans are for Robin to compete on the NASCAR West Grand National Circuit next year, and that by 1983, Robin should be ready to try the Winston Cup circuit, challenging those good old boys. That's a year Robin anxiously awaits.
That's what I want to do. I want to, next year we want to travel and make a lot more races out of town and race NASCAR and move up and go to Daytona and just move up.
Do you think the men will accept you?
They better.
Robin admits the road to success as a professional race driver is a tough one. She sees tomorrow night's race in Montgomery as a learning experience. Learning is a big part of Robin's life right now. It's back home to San Antonio, Texas, Monday for high school final exams. Dave Cody, WSFA TV Sports. How'd it feel, Robin? Carolyn Smith, a deaf-mute since birth, has become the first back-to-back winner of the State Women's Seniors Tournament, another milestone in the Mobile native's long golfing career. Smith is also a former State Women's Amateur champion. Her 3-day total of 255 in the seniors event included a final round of 87. She started the day with a one-stroke advantage that ballooned to 4 by day's end. Bonnie Crest Joe Johnson finished with a round of 90, good enough for second place. Her 3-day total was 259. A playoff decided third place, and Sally Schertzer of the Montgomery Country Club nosed out Sarah Woodham of Gulf Pines of Mobile. Each ended regulation play at 262. Dave Cody, WSFA TV Sports.
One bill that we passed that I don't hear much about, but we're very proud of, and that is, and this was an administration bill, that on child support payments, where there is a delinquency, through the Revenue Department, we can withhold from state income taxes what is due for child support. I think that was a milestone in making people meet responsibilities that ought to be made. Then Representative Biddle's bill that we supported and worked with Jack on, that eliminated the sales tax on prescription drugs for people 65 and over. I think that was important and good. One keen disappointment we had, the Senate killed a co-employee bill. We're the only state in the country that has that sort of a law where a worker can sue a fellow worker, and it is hurting us and hurting us badly in our efforts to bring industry to this state. So I was disappointed, very disappointed there. Then the other disappointment, of course, we didn't get a special education trust fund budget, and that's essential, and we're going to have a special session to budget to get the appropriations for all of education. And then, Chris, again, it's a fundamental reform, restructuring of state government issues that I have been unable to get through the legislature, that would change this system, change it from the very foundations. Biennial budgeting designed to prevent from happening exactly what happened with the education budget. And let's be very candid. First couple of weeks of the session, we sent up a budget. You remember, we tied the ropes to it to make it symbolic of its importance. It's tax dollars. It needs to be deliberated. I don't think it, after the initial hearings, when it cropped up midnight the last night of the session, chewed up by the various lobbyist groups within the Education Committee.
Well, Governor, you sound like you're able to list an awful lot of things that you were for that did not make it. Are you frustrated by the session?
Only more determined. Not frustrated at all.
September 1979, 29 inmates are released from the Montgomery County Jail. April 1980, 11 county inmates are returned to the streets, and later that same year, 37 more are released. March 1981, 6 inmates are released from the Montgomery County Jail, and yesterday, 26 more inmates are freed. Overcrowding of county jails across the state has prompted court-ordered releases of inmates to help relieve the crowded conditions. U.S. District Judge Robert Varner declared that an emergency existed in the bulging Montgomery County Jail and ordered the releases. As with the previous releases, Judge Varner considered the crime involved, past criminal record, and the amount of bond, and the length of sentence to determine which inmates were least deserving of further incarceration. 18 of the inmates released yesterday were state prisoners, marking the first time state prisoners have been released to alleviate overcrowded conditions in county jails. This latest release of inmates could be a forecast of what Varner will do Tuesday, when he's threatened to free 200 inmates from overcrowded state prisons. No federal judge has ever ordered inmates released from state prisons. The State Prison Department opened 2 new facilities for state prisoners in North Alabama that should provide 203 spaces for inmates from the Mobile, Tuscaloosa, and Jefferson County jails to comply with federal court orders affecting those jails. What action, if any, will be taken remains to be seen. Emery Stapleton, WSFA TV News.
These ladies are the rocking chair mamas who love to dance even though they're 70 years old and older. Joining the Disco Senior Citizens Trio are the butter churners, the quilters, and the placemat weaver. Even though Christmas is months away with summer and fall yet to come, handcrafted Christmas wreaths were the specialty of these senior citizens. They all belong to the St. Peter's Harvest House Nutrition Program, where manager Pat Cash says the talents and crafts of these senior citizens adds meaning to their lives.
I've been working with these people for 5 years. I care about them. I care very much about their happiness. I think St. Peter's gives them an opportunity to be creative, to express their opinions, to show history's alive.
Kim Davis, WSFA, TV News.
Nobody knows what to do. Well, we seized. You see that?
Come get me a camera woman.
Which other stuff?
This stuff what we talking about right now.
Well, my grandfather talked to him this morning. He said he's doing a whole lot better. He's real anxious to get home. I talked to him yesterday afternoon, and that's all he could talk about was coming home and going to the farm and getting back in that race car.
Will he be back home when, Monday?
Monday afternoon,
What has been the reaction from people around the country to Donnie's accident?
Most everybody seems real concerned. It's terrible that it takes something like this to get the attention of all the people, but this has definitely done it, you know.
Probably about the biggest thrill we ever had, especially when I say we, myself, I'm speaking of, winning the Grand National deal. That's what we've been trying to do for the last 2 years, or a year and a half, and man, I tell you what, it's just something else.
You've won a number of races out here, hadn't you, a long time ago?
I won several, I don't know exactly how many, but we've won a good percentage of what we ran down here. We seem to always have a good day at Montgomery, and it's one of my favorite racetracks.
How'd you feel last week seeing your buddies, Donnie and Neil, getting hurt in those accidents?
Well, you know, you're always concerned for them. It's like Bobby said, you go on a race, you try to put it out of your mind while you're racing, but every time you have the caution comes back out of something, then you think, well, I hope they're okay and all that. But, you know, that's the hazard of automobile racing, and there ain't a whole lot you can do about it, but you just kind of, hope they're okay and just keep on going.
It was Hank Williams Day in Greenville, Alabama, as nearly 500 fans gathered around the campsite listening to country music, including songs once written and sung by Williams.
The news is all over town that you've been seen out running around.
Jim Owens, the man who portrayed the country music star in the movie about Williams and his life, was on hand for the celebration. Owens remembers the very first time he met Alabama's legendary country musician.
I was 8 years old when I saw Hank, and I remember him as a spangled, flashy white suit and a white hat, and the most exciting thing I'd ever seen on stage. Now remember, that's the first thing I'd ever seen on stage, but that's how I remember him. And
although this was the first annual Hank Williams Day, fans in Greenville say they intend to celebrate this event in many years to come. Kim Davis, WSFA TV News, Greenville, Alabama.
up in the area,
given a situation where these reform issues cannot be leveraged or disguised or lost into all the interplay between the committees and the countless other bills, the mechanics of the system, given some freedom from that, I think that we may be able to make some headway.
Are you calling that a freedom, or are you calling that forcing the issue? These are unpopular things to try and cut back on retirement. Is this putting it before them and saying, look, face it?
Let me call it that. Facing the issue? Yeah, we've got to face some issues. And on the retirement fund itself, what we're talking about is really a slight modification. And that was demagogue, like we were cutting out the retirement. Nothing could be further from the truth. The facts are this. Alabama has the richest retirement fund of any state in America. Starting in the 60s, on 5 different occasions, the legislature saw fit to increase it. What we're saying, that everybody that's already retired, they're locked in, no problems. Nothing changes. A person that's been in the system 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, then what they have earned, the rate of earnings, that is not changed. But we are saying come October 1, everybody earns retirement benefits at a rate that when they reach the age 65 would guarantee them a net take-home pay equal to the net take-home pay the last year they worked. I don't see how anything could be fairer. And the reason that is necessary is it's necessary to protect the financial integrity of the retirement funds that Dr. Brahma has warned about for 10 years, and also to be fair to the taxpayers. And if it did that, Chris, we would save $80 million next year. $80 million, it could be used for salaries and wages if we've got some shortcomings there. Could be used for operations in our public schools as we've got some shortcomings there, or could be used to meet the needs of the people in $1 billion over the next 10 years in this decade. So I believe I have learned, oftentimes you just have to keep saying it. If it's right, it'll stand. If it's not right and not substantive, it'll dissipate.
I like to tell the story on a personal basis that my mother never was any captain or somewhat similar. I kid him quite a bit. The big difference is the lieutenant governor only cast the vote in the Senate in case of a tie. The Speaker of the House votes on issues the same as any other member of the House. Federal district and an elected speaker by that being the job who has been selected as someone else.
The message that I want to leave with you, and the challenge that I want to leave with you, is that women are leaders, can be leaders, and we need your leadership if the state of Alabama, the United States of America, is going to ever move forward in the way that it has the potential to do. And I wish you well, and I'll work with you in any way I can to ensure that you individually meet this potential.
You are going to begin now making decisions on the people that serve and represent you. And you can say today, many of you I know have jobs that earn your spending money and do these little things. And as soon as you started that, you started being involved in government.
Be removed.
Massive federal cuts, a stagnant state economy, and the absence of a state education budget are reasons given by the Alabama Association of School Boards for teacher layoffs. This has caused some friction between the school board officials and the Alabama Education Association because teachers and support personnel will be the only ones affected by the action. The teachers' lobby says that if cuts are to be made, then the administrators should be part of the cutbacks.
Cuts have to be made. Where do you go to cut? At the classroom level where teaching and learning goes on? Or do you go to, if we can operate on 3.5% when times were flusher in 1979 or 1976, why could we not operate on 3% in 1981 when we're pinched?
School employee layoffs are at all-time high across the state, and a survey with 2/3 of the Alabama local school boards reporting about 2,000 employees, including teachers, aides, and non-certified personnel, will not return to their jobs in the fall. Nearly half of those to be laid off are teachers. Those figures are expected to raise to more than 4,000 since some of the larger school systems, such as Birmingham, Jefferson County, and Mobile, have not responded to the survey. The cutbacks in federal funds may mean that some small rural schools could be closed and students bused to city schools. In Walker County, the loss of federal funds means that the school system won't be able to provide many buses for the handicapped children, and remedial math classes may have to be completely dropped. For now, teachers will have to wait until the school board finds out how much money they'll receive from the federal government for the upcoming school year, because at that time, some of the dismissed personnel could be rehired. Emery Stablein, WSFA TV News.
Been producing at the rate of 2 holes per minute, and the operators. Keep it coming. Length, which is more than adequate for all of the work that we're going to put through this equipment.
That equipment can lift anything weighing up to 30 tons.
It's been picked up by schools and some of you.
The general election by the people. The primary responsibility of the Lieutenant Governor of Alabama is to preside over the Alabama Senate.
Fast friends then and have remained.
Inflation, fast-paced technological changes in the telecommunications industry, and increased competition are the major reasons South Central Bell is requesting the largest single rate hike. Jones says since Bell's last rate request for $38.7 million was granted in September 1979, operating expenses have skyrocketed, and so has the cost of borrowing money. Jones says competition is now on a head-to-head basis in the telecommunications business. He says the phone company is no longer a monopoly. They must compete with terminal equipment vendors and private line and long-distance service suppliers. He says changes in the industry are causing Bell to depart from long-established ways of charging for products and services. Among the changes the telephone company is offering its residential customers is in local calling. It's the proposed measured service where residential customers in certain locations who call less have the option of paying less. Another change affecting all persons who use payphones is a proposal to increase the 10 cents call to a quarter. But Jones says the changes will benefit the customers in the long run.
Our purpose will be to continue to seek at every point of decision the highest and best use of the organization and resources that we call the Bell system, a system that will continue to seek to serve you, the customer, you, the consumer, with the best communication services that you need and want at the lowest possible cost.
Kim Davis, WSFA TV News.
He has vision and he gets things done better than next Saturday morning in the real process.
They pass, but also by the bills they don't pass. And keep that in.
Selected in the general election by the people. The primary responsibility of the Lieutenant Governor of Alabama is to preside over the Alabama Senate. And I feel that.
And here at Carroll State, we will have Alabama state government.
Security around the Magwood trial is tighter than normal for murder cases in the South Alabama community. A number of county sheriff's deputies and state troopers are searching everyone entering the courtroom. Coffee County's current sheriff, Bryce Paul, says they're not taking any chances. It took most of the day for the attorneys to select the all-white jury of 6 men and 6 women. The prosecution's first witness was Deputy Thomas Weeks, who at the time of the shooting was a jailer on duty in Elba. He told the court that he saw Magwood waiting in front of the county jail on the morning of March 1st. 1st. He says then at about 6:45 he saw Magwood approach Sheriff Grantham with what he thought was a pistol, but Weeks says he only heard the 3 shots that killed Grantham. Weeks says Magwood also fired 2 shots at him before driving away. The rest of the day was spent by the prosecution establishing the time of the shooting, Magwood's whereabouts on that day, and his arrest later that day. Since his arrest more than 2 years ago, Magwood has undergone mental evaluations in which he was reportedly diagnosed as having been insane on the day of the shooting. His attorneys are pleading not guilty and not guilty by reason of insanity, but it will probably be tomorrow morning before the defense presents its case. In Elba, Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
Dr. Cox to speak to this just briefly. Grant from FAA to fund a reevaluation of the airport master plan involving runway.
We had at our March meeting, we've been sent some more belt tightening and
Dr. Cox to speak to this just briefly.
And Kay Ivy and I were that way. It was an instant friendship, respect, admiration. She's a...
The Constitution of the United States, we mentioned the Constitution of the state of Alabama. I've chosen this. Come on, one by one. Thank you. Congratulations to you. Congratulations.
first, I said, don't think I'm crazy, but it's the truth. I said, that's the thing that I could see that if we had an instructor teaching.
But in about 21 years, where are you going? Where do you want to be next year? Where do you more in life than the kind of goal that I hit with a lifeline along? Well, that sort of blew the brakes for 6 weeks. The rest of the time, I was, and that was his goal. And he dedicated himself to reach that goal. Anybody can set a goal, but you have to pay the price to reach it. A lot of people in life today look for some football. There is only one thing that can hit the cloud. Comes to Montgomery. He went in with the Pittsburgh Steelers during the Vietnam therapy. That if I follow it, I'll be able to walk.
I believe it's true because I had a lot of time to go. I had 17 months at least before I came up for parole.
What kind of sentence did you have?
I had over here I have a 1-year sentence to 2 years probation. I had another 5-year sentence over in another county. I believe it's true because I had a lot of time to go. I had 17 months at least before I came up for parole.
What kind of sentence did you have?
I had over here I have a 1-year sentence to 2 years probation. I had another 5-year sentence over in another county.
I don't believe it.
Why?
I believe it's true because I had a lot of time to go. I had 17 months at least before I came up for parole.
What kind of sentence did you have?
I had over here I have a 1-year sentence to 2 years probation. I had another 5-year sentence over in another county.
This is the telephone company's largest single rate request, and the Public Service Commission has hired additional attorneys to hear the case. South Central Bell's Alabama Vice President Carlton Baker was the opening witness, explaining why the phone company needs more money. Baker says Bell is a victim of inflationary pressures, and in order to compete in the telecommunications business, attract financial investors, and recover operating costs, the phone company can't survive in 1981 with 1979 rates. Under the proposed new rates, a one-party residential customer would pay $7.30 more per month for basic telephone service. Paid telephone calls would be a quarter instead of a dime. Other proposed increases are in the private line and local exchange services and in service connection charges. Baker says the FCC's decision concerning depreciation expenses is also reflected in the proposed rate increase. Testimony resumes tomorrow in South Central Bell's rate hearing and is expected to continue through much of the summer. The telephone company plans to present 15 witnesses before the Public Service Commission decides if the telephone company should receive the $146 million it's asking for. Kim Davis, WSFA TV News.
Early this morning, Magwood came back to the Coffee County Courthouse in Elba for the second and last day of his murder trial. Magwood's accused of killing Sheriff Grantham, but Magwood's attorneys claim their client was insane at the time of the shooting. The only defense Magwood's attorneys presented was a transcript of testimony from a Searcy State Hospital psychiatrist who diagnosed Magwood as schizophrenic and incompetent at the time of the shooting. But the prosecution today presented a Chipley, Florida clinical psychologist who said he also diagnosed Magwood as schizophrenic, but didn't believe the Vietnam veteran was insane at the time of the shooting. Both doctors, however, admitted that a different diagnosis could come from different experts as to Magwood's sanity at the time of the shooting. The jury, though, believed the prosecution and convicted Magwood in the death of Grantham. Later, the jury sentenced Magwood to death in Alabama's electric chair, but as in all death penalty cases, the verdict is automatically appealed. Throughout the entire trial and during the announcement of the verdict and the sentence, Magwood's emotions never changed. He sat still and listened. Magwood's official sentencing will be next Tuesday. In Elba, Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
The case was filed almost 3 years ago. The Montgomery Improvement Association is suing HUD and the city for reallocating federal funds originally assigned for low-income areas to some other projects like the ball field at AUM. Watkins says the pretrial hearing is scheduled for June 18th, and he asked the council to let him pick an attorney, with the city paying the attorney's fees. He says since the city is paying for legal representation for the other council members, it should do the same for him. The actual suit names Watkins' predecessor, Herman Harris, as a defendant. Harris supports the position of HUD and the council, while Watkins supports the Improvement Association. If the city loses the case, it'll have to pay $6 million in liability. Mayor Emery Farmer is against the council paying for Watkins' attorney. He says the taxpayer shouldn't pay an attorney to attack the city's position. The mayor says the only way he'll initiate such a move is if the council passes a resolution providing the revenue to pay for the attorney's fees. No action was taken, but Council President